Before we talk about the remaining actions, let's place an instance of our animated movie clip at the beginning so that it is similar to my demo, and that'll allow us to talk about a few more things to do with movie clips. So instead of creating a new layer, I just went all the way back to the first frame of animated movie clip, brought out an instance of, what was it called, person movie clip. Make sure it's the movie clip, not the regular animated symbol. And I just changed the color to black so it would stand out against the pale background. And now if I do a command return right now as is, you'll see that it's there. It's there the whole time it moves along. It seems like whenever I drag my mouse it slows it down. But if you remember from my demo, it only existed on the very first frame. But before we do that, let's go ahead and add the action. And I'm going to give you a twofer here. I'm going to show you why you should only ever add one action at a time. So let's say that you were getting towards the end of this animation that you planned out at your own or on your own, and you realized I need to stop at the end, I need to stop at the beginning. I'm going to do just that, do them both at the same time. I'm going to make a mistake in one so that you can experience something. Okay, so here I am on the very first frame in actions. I'm going to go ahead and put a stop, and I may as well give you a spoiler alert. This one is correct, so you can go ahead and do exactly what I'm doing here. And then I'm going to look at the end, pretend that I'm doing this for the first time. So that would be my last frame in here, and I'm just going to purposely make a mistake in here and say accidentally capitalize this. Now, one thing that maybe you were quick enough to notice is that when computer talk is correct in this program with these current default settings, it highlights in blue. So if I'm trying to make computer talk like a command like stop and I get it wrong, it's not blue. So the accident was having the capitalized S. But what I want you to experience, the reason that you don't want to do multiple actions at the same time is it makes troubleshooting a nightmare. I would have expected that if I hit command return right now, it's still going to stop on the first frame because that's correct. But watch what happens. Command return, I get my error, and it did not stop on the first frame. So that makes it tough. Now, if you're good at reading errors, you can see that it's kind of giving us a hint here that it might be, in frame 790, but you can't totally rely on this. And most people, unless are quite experienced in code reading, can't make a whole lot of sense of this anyway. So I'll close this, I'll fix the error in the end, and when I change that to a lowercase s, you should see it turn blue, and that did indeed happen. I'll save this, we'll preview it. Okay, so now you can see that it does come to a stop at the beginning. The play button does whatever I last programmed it to do, which is probably jump way out into the future. Yeah, way out here. And you can see that that movie clip was still there for quite a while. In fact, I'm going to go in and change that code. Let's do all of this together. Let's change that code so that it is just a play button. So we're back inside of actions, frame 1. And there's a couple different ways we could do this. The sloppy way would be to change this to go to and play and change it to frame 2. That would work. I'll show you the correct way. And the reason you want to do the correct way is you learn more from it, and if you're ever working in a team, it just makes more sense. So this is a much shorter, it's just like the stop command. It's just simply play, open, close parentheses, semicolon. Now, you might also, if you were working on a team, go through all the work of changing the instance name of your button to maybe play button, which means you'd have to change it here in the code. You'd have to change it out in the properties. I don't suggest you do that for this one. For this one, in fact, I don't care for the project. You won't lose points whether it says play in here or whether it says go to and play and there's just a 2 in there. and I don't care what you name the instance of your button, just as long as it works. So we're going to go ahead, close this. Once again, when we test, we should come out to the first frame. It should stop. We click on our now. It's just really just a play button, and it's going to start playing at the beginning. Now, our little movie clip is still here doing its thing all along, regardless of whether the movie is playing or not. But how do we fix that? See if you can figure it out. I'm about to show. Super easy. All we have to do is go one frame after our movie clip person. There it is. And then just simply put in our F7. So that movie clip only exists on one frame. But again, the power of the movie clip is as long as that frame is there in preview mode, that movie clip's going to play on and on and on forever. As soon as we hit play, we go to frames 2 through 700-ish. And of course, it's gone because it only exists on frame 1. Right, I think you already had a question like this in an earlier quiz, but it helps to be a good, and the answer is, troubleshooter when digitally animating. Now you may be thinking, well, I just don't possess those skills, but instead of thinking as troubleshooting, you can just think of you got to go into these programs with your eyes wide open, pause, think about all the different ways you might be able to achieve some, try them out. Separate documents are your best friend because then you don't worry about ruining your production document. And I'm going to give you a couple troubleshooting hints as we go on, which go hand in hand with this one. Save a copy of your animations with any notes, troubleshooting buttons, and codes. However, the client and instructor version should be ultra, and the answer is clean. So sometimes when I'm working on a document in Adobe Animate, I might, even along the edge here, outside of the frame, or sometimes I'll put it right in the frame, I'll get out my text tool, I'll put in some notes that remind me you're going to need to fix this, or maybe even tell myself for a future thing what I learned here so I don't make the same mistakes twice. So I might want to save that out exactly as is. But then, of course, before I give it to the client, I'm going to come in and get rid of all that stuff. I'm going to double check my code to make sure there's not some hidden button that I forgot to take out. So if there is, I'm not only going to get rid of the extra code, I'm going to get rid of the extra button. So everything is just as neat and clean and precise as possible. And to that end, one of the things you're going to do a lot is Command Return and preview your animation. And you may notice something that you think, is that a glitch or not? Is that just because of my preview? Is it because of the speed of my computer? So then one of the best things that you can do at the very end is go into your animation, start on frame 1, and just click on the period key. And keep doing that. And if it's going too slow for you, you can hold it down and you get a moderate speed going on. And what you want to do here is just look for anything that looks like it would be a glitch. And remember, on your fade out, that center section of the fade out should be nothing, and on each side of it should be, on the left side should be what came before, a little hint of the target there, and then on the right side of absolute nothingness would be the start of the topic coming in. So that's a likely area that you could find some mistakes in, and then you're just going to do your F5 and Shift F5 to fix that. And of course, you probably want to double click on your hand tool so that your stage fits perfectly in there before you do that. Let's see if I think I had a little glitch on one of these. Well, let's at least see what it looks like with the glitch on one of these. So what you want to do is you want to just go through and see. Now it went to nothingness. Now what I would expect on my next click is that I'm going to see the text. But oh, I don't. The UFO comes back in. Then I see the text. So obviously there's a glitch there. So what is the glitch? It seems like this started just a little bit too soon. So to fix that, I'm just going to click in front of it. I'm going to do an F5. I'm going to step back through it again and see, okay, there's nothingness. That looks right now. Now keep in mind, I just removed a frame, or did I? No, I added a frame. So I may have to remove a frame here because it's going to have an effect on what comes after it. But rather than guess at that, I'll just keep doing the same thing and see if I do indeed have a problem down here or not. It really doesn't take that long on an animation of this size. So there's that, and yep, looks like the same, should say similar issue. It looks like it actually fades all the way out a little bit too late, so I'll just put an F5 in there. Again, step through it. You get the idea. So it's either going to be an F5 or a Shift F5, and then you're just going to keep doing that, moving on to the next one. So there, well, I actually made that worse. I had that backwards in my head somehow, so here's one side of the most opaque part of that tween. Here's the exact most opaque part, and here's the other side. So that one's fixed. Like I said, you just keep going. Here's something that I noticed when I previewed it, is that I had this little sliver of white showing up at the top here. So I could edit multiple frames here, but since I'm stepping through, I think I'm just going to handle this one frame at a time. So I need to get to my background. Sure it's unlocked, click on it and give it a up arrow once or twice, and then continue with the period key and see if it does indeed move down here. And yeah, it does. So obviously I'm going to have to do the same thing on this frame. And let's see here, it doesn't matter, shouldn't matter for a while here, but yep, oh, there we got the issue again. And once we complete that, we're going to run through, watch it again very carefully, make sure that we fixed all of our problems. And you would just keep repeating those steps until you are 100% satisfied that your animation is ready to turn in. And if you want to compare all of my keyframes to yours, if you're having some kind of a problem, at the very end of this video, I'll do just that. I'll open up all of my folders and I'll play through slowly this entire timeline. But before we do that, I just want to show you a couple more techniques or items that might help you on your final project. One of them is some of the different things that you can do with animated symbols. So here are 3 symbols, animated symbols, all on my main timeline. There is no tweening happening. So look over in the properties panel of some of the things you can do. So if these were dancing, you'd probably want them to be in step. But if they were just, like say 100 people in the park just doing some activity, you probably want them to be out of sync with each other. And a very common use for animated symbols is to do things like raindrops and snow falling. And so if you want to get them out of sync with each other to look a little more realistic, there's an option for that. So we're going to select one of the symbols. We're going to go down here to Frame Picker, and I can just put my cursor in here and drag, and you'll get a preview of what's going to happen on the stage. Well, I'll use the up and down arrow keys. So let's change that to frame 8 that this one starts on. Do Command Return, and you can see the power that could be there. I can also click on one of them, and I can use these options over here. For example, one of the options is to play the graphic one time. I'm not going to go through all of these, but definitely check them out if you think they would be beneficial to you. But you can see just by selecting that, that rotated or did its thing only one time. For more advanced students, I want to have a little bit of an advanced discussion on advanced layers. Sorry I used the word advanced so much there, but that's how it goes. So I told you in earlier videos that in this class we do not use, so when you get to the test question here, it is advanced layers. So here's the advanced thing I want to talk about on this is when advanced layers first came out, it really messed with our code. So my advice was just don't use it. But I had been reading that it has gotten better. So I made my entire example for this midterm project with advanced layers turned on and did all the coding. So that might be good news for those of you who want to learn and use the camera feature. Now the camera feature, what it does is it allows you to animate the camera so that it'll feel a little more intuitive when you pan and zoom in and zoom out. But the fundamental truth is still there that I told you, where you have to have a big enough scene to zoom in. Well, not to zoom in, but to zoom out for sure. You have to have a big enough scene. To go left and right, you have to have a big enough scene to have something to pan over. So just know that that's an option for you. But on the other hand, if coding is your thing and you do run into problems with advanced layers, just know that it is just up here under modify. Let's see where it was. I modify, document, and by default, use advanced layers is turned on. So it seems like you can just leave that on. If you did run into problems with coding and you wanted to turn it off, you would just click here. You'd get this warning that what advanced layers does is it turns all of your individual layers into symbols so that you can then use the camera on it. So it's kind of saving you some scenes behind, or saving you some steps behind the scenes. So if you do turn off advanced layers, you're probably going to lose any effects that you made with a camera. So if you're a big coding person, make sure you do a lot of experimenting before you decide to use advanced layers. Otherwise, the ways that I've showed you in these videos will work, where you just animate your objects, your background, and your items, maybe even turn them into symbols and scale them up and down for fade in, fade out, and move them left and right for your pans. I'm going to go ahead and turn it off so you can see something. What I want you to notice is that the camera icon and this icon over here will gray out when we do that. So we'll say turn off advanced layers, but don't do this on your document. And then I'll click OK, and you can see those gray out because they're no longer usable. Okay, congratulations. You made it through the toughest class project. Now your final project may be tougher depending on how much effort you put into it, but you've come a long way here. So now I'm going to conclude by opening up my layers as much as I can here. Okay, so I had to rearrange things a little bit here to get everything to show up. What we'll do is we'll just go through all the way through easing, and then I'll close these folders and open up the others. So I'm just going to hold down the period key. All right, and about there we should be into our next topic. So I will close guide, I will close ease, and then the next ones we'll see will be masking and shape. Okay, and that should take us into the last two.